Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again for that amazing preceding film, Tahara, or Tahara. And I'm about to ask the director and the writer of the film how exactly to pronounce their film's name. So you're going to get to meet them very quickly. I'm Shana Macy Warner. I'm the assistant programmer and community partnerships coordinator for NewFest. And let's go to the Q&A. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to ask you first to introduce yourselves and your role with the film, and then I'm going to ask you right after, how do you pronounce your film's name and how do you prefer to pronounce it?
Excellent. So I'm Olivia Peace. I'm the director of Tahara. You nailed it actually the first time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm Jess, and I'm the writer and one of the producers of Tahara. It's interesting. It's one of those, it's hard with the Americanization of a Hebrew word. So it's sort of like Hillel, like some people say it this way, some people say it that way. And then accent has, does even more depending on where you're at. So it's not wrong to say Tahara, but we like to say Tahara. So you nailed it, just like Olivia said.
Thank you. I'm very glad to know that because I also grew up going to Hebrew school, the whole nine yards. This film definitely resonated on a very personal level, and I was so happy to see it and so happy to be able to program it and have you two here. So I was pronouncing it that way, and nobody else was, and I was like, oh my God, was it me? Was it me the whole time? But I'm so glad. Thank you for being here. And thank you so much for producing this beautiful film about some very messy stuff. So I would love to ask how this collaboration came to be and how the development of this film started.
Yeah, definitely. I saw Olivia. I saw the nod. I'll take the nod. So yeah, I wrote this film in a screenwriting course at Northwestern University, which Olivia also attended, called Writing the Micro Budget Feature. So that was taught by filmmaker Stephen Cohn, and it was all about sort of the limitations that you could experience if you wanted to like write a movie that you could actually make. So I thought like one location, smaller ensemble, all one day, minimize costumes, that sort of thing. And so I wrote that in the fall of 2016 and worked on it throughout college. And when I was graduating in 2018, I was like linked up with Dasha Gorin, another one of our producers, and Madison Ginsburg, the other co-producer, and they were like, "Let's try to make it." And I was like, "I don't think I'm ready to direct anything, but I'd love to reach out to Olivia Peace, who went to Northwestern, whose work I really admired." So I messaged Olivia on Facebook, and then I messed up her email. And so I thought she ghosted. I thought she wasn't interested, and I thought, okay, they are gonna pass on this one. That's okay. And then Dasha, a couple months later, was like, let's try them one more time, send it to the correct email. And Olivia, want to go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I did a live read with my roommate where I projected it on the wall of our apartment. And it kind of went from this sort of theoretical thing where I was like, oh, I'm not sure if this is the right film to be my first feature. Is I don't know if there's any other filmmakers out there, but I kind of was like raised in Sundance Ignite, where they kind of preach like your first feature, it should be all about you and this personal story. So I felt like very kind of sensitive to that. But I got to the scene where Hannah pops a zit in the mirror. And I was like, oh, they have to shoot this with us seeing the zit. We have to see it burst. And suddenly, like before I knew it, I had a whole page worth of ideas that I then brought to Jess. Jess said yes to all of these wild ideas. And yeah, then it was kind of off to the races.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that one wrong email did not deter you. And you
that has to be shout out to Dasha. So I just like did not copy and paste correctly, and I was like, and that's a pass. Okay, that's okay. I'm so glad that Olivia and I found each other and have worked on this process through pretty deep collaboration. We went through the script multiple times. We drew out arcs for all of the characters. And even, through pre-production, production, and post, we're still constantly just like figuring out ways to like grow and change our collaboration to make this film what it is. Because I think that's something for all the filmmakers out there, we're really talking to you. Like, it's just this ongoing process that is so complicated, but it feels so good to have someone else to talk to.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you're talking about that, because I think a lot of filmmakers who are just starting out, and a lot of audience members too, have this idea that a film is made by just one person and is not such a collaboration, where obviously this film, there were so many different pieces, from the look of it, the costuming, makeup, like incredible makeup and choices, production design, like everything was so incredibly cohesive, but you could tell that it came from a lot of different places and just melded so beautifully. So thank you for hyping up that collaboration. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I mean, the makeup, I mean, Olivia could tell you, but we could not find a makeup artist in Rochester for a long time. And my mom is an OBGYN. Shout out to Dr. Eva Pressman. She's gonna be thrilled that she gets a shout out. She was like, oh, someone I work with at the hospital's daughter, like, is a makeup artist who does wedding makeup in Rochester. And that's Claire Kenna, who's our makeup artist, who was like game for the zit, game for the like, we making all these beautiful actors look like kind of messy teenagers. Yeah. That was like, I think we brought Claire on, what, 2 days before filming?
There was concern that we wouldn't find anyone, because we also have actors and actresses of color. And one of the big things for me was like, we need to make sure that they can do makeup on different skin tones. And Claire just rocked it, like every single day, showing up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we got super lucky.
So fortunate, and also feels very natural to the film itself to find someone 2 days before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I would love to ask, actually, so this film, a lot of kind of people have been talking about it as a coming of age film, and it is sort of squarely in that genre, but I would love to ask, because there are so many parts that are really singular about this film. I thought, was there anything that you felt, either on the directing side or the writing side, or coming together, that you had seen before in coming of age and you're like, I don't want to get that wrong, like I've seen it, or you haven't seen before and you're like, we have to get this right because we haven't seen it anywhere else?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I love coming of age movies. Like, I've watched so many. That's like my one genre that I can say, like, yes, I know a lot about this.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, a lot of teen movies made by older people, I think, fall into this sort of thing where they don't take the emotions of the teenagers seriously that they're talking about, or they don't take the scenarios very seriously. It all kind of plays as this kind of whimsical fodder, I think sometimes is how it lands. And so we tried really hard to, yeah, respect like the seriousness of how it feels to have these things happening to you as a teenager when you don't have that much experience with, loss or a friendship breakup or like new romances where everything does feel very serious. So that was my answer to the question.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with Olivia. I think from a writing perspective, something that was huge to me, and I, as a fellow Hebrew school graduate, you might understand, is that was a huge part of my life, was going to Hebrew school and having these friends that are like not my secular friends. They're like my Jewish religious schoolmates. And it was this community I have, I'm like friends with some of them on Facebook. Like the other day I saw some of them like Venmo charging each other. And it's like that thing where it's like, I have this community in my life that I went through like experiences of like sort of school with, and I'd never seen that on screen. I feel like the American Jewish experience in media is very white, very male, and very like serious or severe. And I think I had never seen like a Jewish comedy that wasn't like the bat mitzvah or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's so much more to Jewish life, and I was so excited that Olivia would like dive into this and make it as complicated and messy as any sort of coming of age movie, but within this very, very specific scope. Because I think regardless of specific, you know, there's a lot of things to this film that are specifically Jewish, but I think a lot of people have religious education and have those kind of like schoolmates and people. And I had never seen anything like that. And I was just excited, you know, like, why did I sit in Hebrew school not listening to my Maura Klein kind of teacher looking out the window for nothing? No, you got to make a movie about it.
Oh yeah, you got to mind that. And it feels like a lot of this, you got to mind those toxic friendships.
Oh yeah.
You didn't know what to do with when you were that young and they affected you so heavily, but now you've made a movie. Absolutely.
Definitely. Some might say mind, some might say process, you know, it's to each their own.
Both, same time.
Yeah, I think that's the truest of them all.
Yeah, different sides, same coin. But absolutely, you're talking about not having seen this experience is so interesting, because the moment I saw a synagogue bathroom, that like couch in the bathroom where you'd sit and just like gossip and cry, I was like, oh my God, I've never seen this on film before. And that was like 8 or 9 years of my life.
Oh yeah.
Of just the girls in Hebrew school, that's where they would go, you know?
Yeah, and that was we filmed in my synagogue, Temple Beth El in Rochester. That's my synagogue. That's my synagogue bathroom.
Shout out to them.
Thank you so much, Debbie Zager. That's the executive director who let us film there for 15 days during construction. And it was really an intense and exciting experience. But yeah, that synagogue bathroom couch, same one I went on to avoid all of my problems and make new problems. And then we had people doing the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. That's incredible. And thank you to your synagogue for being game for that. Have you heard anything actually from them watching it? Any reactions to the film?
You know, not yet. Our Rochester premiere is going to be at Image Out, which is the queer festival up in Rochester. I say up because we're in New York City right now, technically, virtually. Yeah, and I haven't had a chance. I think, you know, the congregation is clearly going through a lot right now. Moving all the high holidays to virtual has been like the big lift. So I'm hoping to touch base with them, you know, later this week to just see if they want to do anything. It's definitely been like a very intense time for Jewish communities right now with everything going virtual. But
absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, I hope it's something that can give some comfort and some feeling of actually still being there, even though you're not physically in the synagogue, because it's really like makes a lot of sense now that it felt so real and it was filmed in the synagogue. So amazing location scouting, whoever did that. I would love to ask, did you have any favorite scenes to shoot or to write, or both?
Ooh, there's this one scene actually with Maura Klein, where it's just like a very quick shot after Carrie like leaves the classroom and Maura Klein turns around away from the class. And in the script, we wrote that she like steals herself, which is like, I think it's just, you know, that's such an intense day. And she's kind of been this background character the entire time where, you know, you kind of hear her voice droning on. I think in that moment, she becomes the main character for a second, where it's like, wait a minute, like this is affecting her as well. That was really fun. There is a lot of really fun experimentation, I think, that we did on set too, like with trying to make that 360 dolly work. Or the first kiss scene. The library scene was really fun where Tristan comes in. We actually only got 2 shots, 2 takes of that one because it just flowed so well.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, everything we got the most amazing actors for this, and they had absolutely no time to prep. And we asked them to be very close very quickly. Like I think that kiss scene happened on day 2.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Like a lot of it, I think was just kind of synergy happening on set.
Yeah, I the actors had so little time, and we are so grateful to them. Each and every one really brought it, especially like a lot of our sort of supporting cast like drove up from New York City to come to
Hmm.
Rochester over from Buffalo, and it's so cool how everyone made stuff work. I mean, that's the secret to indie filmmaking, I think, especially is just like finding ways to make it work and try to have as much fun as you can while balancing everything else. I'm trying to think of my favorite scene we shot, and I really loved the scenes we did in the sanctuary because it was so
Hmm.
complicated to get in there because they were having services in there and we were like scheduling them, but once we got in there, the feeling of being in there was so beautiful to me that we got to film in that sanctuary, and like the things that our like camera and electrical department did to make everything work with the stained glass and just like make the space feel both like like intimate and cavernous. Those were really fun days. And the last day we did that scene with Tristan and Hannah, that's Rachel Sennett and Daniel, um, where they're like up on the bema. Like that was a great last day. It was really, we got the shots and it was just like so fun, and it was just like seeing that scene back. It's like I'm so happy we just like got the coverage we got.
Oh,
Hmm.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, all the scenes I thought had something really special about them, and I love that you talked about Olivia Morikline being the main character for a moment because the entire ensemble was so strong, but then going to each of them, I feel like they each got their little moment to be the main character, and that brought everything together. Um, I would love to ask as a last question. So, is there anything that either of you would say to filmmakers who are coming from a very specific experience and trying to replicate that on film to encourage them, or any pitfalls? Because I think something that hopefully is being celebrated a bit more now is taking these very specific cultural experiences, especially, and really filling them out as someone who is coming directly from that place. So, is there anything that you would say to filmmakers or to writers who are looking to do that in order to encourage them, or just give some advice?
Well, that's a really good question.
Olivia, you want me to start and then I'll pass it to you?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to say something that I learned from Olivia that I think has been so major is that, like, don't be afraid to take those risks to showcase your voice. Like, I think a lot of times, like, we didn't even get into this, but, our film is in 1:1, and that's something that Olivia brought to me. And I, at first, was really hesitant. I think there's like this voice that's like, well, that's not going to work on an airplane, thing. Like, no one's going to want to distribute that, like all these sort of like professional things. And then it's like, zoom in. Who are you? I am a 20-year-old filmmaker who wants to tell a queer, Jewish, small story. How am I going to make that happen in a way that feels real for someone in like 2019, 2020? Like a 1:1, like an Instagram square, is awesome. It says so much more than we can afford to say because of our budget. Like, take those risks. Don't think just because you haven't seen it before, whether that's the theme of your story or the style of your story, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't tell it in that way. Like, reimagining what a movie looks like, a coming of age story looks like all of that is what has gotten me through this process. So take the risk, try it, like, and don't like let your preconceived notions of like what is X be the force. Like, I think people need to like let themselves like explore and play a lot more. So that's my advice.
Ooh, amen. Yeah, I mean that is what helps you to stand out. I mean, I guess all I would add to that and is that you still need to do your research, like whether you think that this is your story or not. I think a common pitfall people might fall into is thinking that they know an experience so well because they've had something adjacent to it. they don't do the research and then it kind of flops, or you cause, or worse, you do harm. So though this is a queer story and I'm a queer person, like there were some things I think Jess and I talked like really intensely about, like not wanting to do, not wanting to portray. Um, like there are certain scenes where we would literally like the night before, the day of, kind of be rewriting the dialogue to try to make sure we're not making not a meme, but you know what I mean, like making a character be flat when we're all like these whole well-rounded people. And so for me, especially as someone who's not Jewish, like coming and portraying this Jewish story, I wanted to make sure that I did my research too and that I came in prepared. So we did some interviews, did a lot of reading, did a lot of visits. And yeah, that's kind of what brought us through, I think.
Amazing. Well, thank you so, so much for being here, for answering all of these questions, sharing your experience, and sharing your beautiful film. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was our Q&A. I'm so sad it wasn't longer because that was a conversation I just wanted to keep having, but please be sure to keep following Olivia and Jess and what they do next. And thank you for watching Tahara, and thank you for watching this Q&A. If you'd like to go to newfest.org, we have so many different films for you. We have short film programs, we have more amazing features, documentaries, panels, you name it, we've got it. And if you really enjoyed this film, please go see our trifecta of Jewish funeral movies. We also have Minyan, and we have Shiva Baby, which also stars Rachel Sennett. So go check out some more amazing LGBTQ films, and thank you so much for watching.